provide. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening to you, and good evening to our friends that will be joining. I know it's going to take some time for people to see that birthday is live. And this is my very first Facebook live session with any person in government. And so it is an honor and privilege to sit with you today. So, ask you some very tough questions that border on your job. And I'm sure you're going to have to drink a lot of water in the next few minutes because you may not like some of the questions, but I'll ask them regardless. And I want to thank you for taking out time from your very busy schedule to join us, just to express yourself. And again, this is the chairman of the State Universal Basic Education Board, Mrs. Eyitayo Salami.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure again to have you. Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I want you to start by telling us about SUBEB and what SUBEB does, what the goal was behind setting up SUBEB.
So SUBEB is the State Universal Basic Education Board. Of course, I sit as the chairman of the board in Edo State, but basic education in Nigeria is regulated at the federal level by the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, and it has offices in every state, so you will have state SUBEBs. And generally, in Nigeria, our mandate is to ensure that every child of school-going age, within the ages of 3 to 15, the first 10 years of academic learning are provided with education that is free, compulsory, and in the case of Edo, we like to say that we ensure it's qualitative. So that essentially is the basic mandate of every SUBEB. In Edo State, since His Excellency Governor Godwin Obaseki came on board, there has been a lot of focus on enriching the basic education experience in the state, and that's where Edo's Best is born. So Edo Best started out as a basic education sector transformation program. Now it's in what we call Edo Best 2.0, is extended to other sectors in the education ecosystem. But in the area of my remit, it is about reforming basic education, and even as we moved on to 2.0, it's about strengthening what His Excellency did in his first term and preparing the program for his exit, for sustainability, and over the long run, essentially. So hopefully that clarifies things a bit.
Oh yes, Edo Best has been something His Excellency has put a lot of commitment and dedication to. And so I'm trying to find out, what is your view on how Edo Best has, transformed basic education in the state compared to what it was like maybe 5-10 years ago?
Yeah.
What's the value Edo Best has brought that is different from what other programs were before now?
Okay, so Edo Best has run for over 5 years now. And what it set, I think it's always very important that people understand what it set out to do. So because the best way to judge a thing is what's the vision, what were the objectives, and what were we trying to achieve. So we always like to start by saying that His Excellency, on the back of what he met in the education space and what he's always very free to say is that he met a broken education system. And one of the areas when he thought of fixing education, he said, I'll start with basic. And even in fixing basic education, there are so many aspects. And then you have to decide what is most important at this time and what will I prioritize, at least for the now. And for him, he tried to focus on human capacity building, recognizing the teacher, I'd like to say, as the silver bullet. That one thing that if you fix it, you probably can then add on other things and make progress as you go along. So it was really about setting up a program that would upskill the teachers that are present in the classroom, to an extent that the delivery of learning is somewhat improved. And what were you going to do to achieve this? First of all, he's regarded everywhere as a digital governor. His Excellency is like infatuated with technology, if you ask me. And so he thought that whatever solution he was going to be using would be one that leveraged technology. And of course, look in hindsight, you see that to do anything at scale, when you're doing something at the state level, having to reach hundreds and thousands of children across different communities, different local governments, the very best way you can do that at scale is leveraging technology. So the conversation were first of all, are the teachers even in school? Because they historically they weren't showing up in school when they should, they weren't delivering the time that they should for the money that they were supposed to be earning at the time. And because they weren't in school, the children were not regular in school either. And of course, even when the teachers were in school, the question was, are they teaching? What is the quality of content that they're delivering to the children? And of course, finally, His Excellency asked, finally, are the children learning? So in trying to answer those questions, it formed the building blocks of how we would set about implementing this reform. So let's ensure that we put an accountability system that is supported by a strong monitoring and evaluation system to check if the teachers are in school. So we set up Edo SUBEB on a platform that gives the teachers a tablet and gives a school leader, so either a head teacher or a principal, a smartphone. And the tablet is synced with the smartphone and is connected to the GPS location of the particular school where the teacher is assigned. So you cannot record that you reported in school when you're in a different location. It just wouldn't work. So the teacher needed to be in school to arrive in school. And it will sync with the head teacher's tablet, and the back end will record that the teacher shows up in school, departs from school. Also, the teacher tablet, as they complete their lesson, is tied to ensuring that they record how they are completing their lessons and whether they're getting them done. So those were just like setting an accountability framework to ensure that at least if we say whether education being provided, let's even ensure that the people that are supposed to provide that education are even present first before we talk of quality. So that was one of the things that was put in place by Edo SUBEB. Another thing that was critical to ensure that when the teachers are in school, what exactly are they delivering? What His Excellency meant at the time was the teachers weren't preparing lesson notes just by the passage of time. There were resources. If they would do anything, they probably would have to use their funding and their money. So really, to what standard can you hold them accountable? So one of the things the states did at the time was to ensure that their content is available to them. So, and how do you do this? Through the use of scripted lessons. The scripted lessons also ensure that the classes or the content is uniform across the state on the platform of technology. So any primary 5 in any school in Edo State would be teaching the same content. The children will be learning the same content. There was also very important to change the atmosphere in school to be such that the children could learn, could want to come to school without the fear of being beaten, like corporal punishment. There was a lot of infusing of encouraging chairs, as we like to call them, in the lessons of the class, how teachers would correct the children, and just basically how they would relate with their children would be a bit more endearing and a bit more empathetic of what the children might be going through. So basically changing the classroom experience for the children, essentially, was also very important. That parents got involved in what their children were doing. So there was the issue of community engagement and parent participation. So with the Edo SUBEB came the introduction of open days, where you could go to school.
Oh, okay. So public schools or public schools in the basic education ecosystem have open days?
Yes, we do have open days. So tomorrow is our open day.
Okay.
If you want to come and see.
Yeah.
So because the children finished exams 2 days ago and they break up for the holiday tomorrow. So tomorrow the parents come and go over what their children, how the children have performed in this half of the term. And they did it after their half-term exams as well. So since the start of the Edo SUBEB program, that has been the practice.
So parents can participate.
Yes.
And understand the progress that kids are making in
Yes,
schools.
exactly. And engage with the teachers on what
Where help is needed.
Exactly.
Because I go for open day too, and I
Yes.
look forward to it. Look forward to the teacher telling me about my kids, how they're performing and where they need help.
Exactly.
And for us to now be doing this to kids in public schools, I think it's something that I celebrate. I know that there are tangible and intangible aspects of education.
Yeah.
And the Edo SUBEB program focuses more on the intangible part of it. So what are the tangible aspects? The classrooms, the furniture in the classes. How does SUBEB, intervene in that regard?
So, you are right. I mean, many times when people judge any education space, the first thing they would look at would be infrastructure. And definitely one of the criticisms of Edo SUBEB is you say you're improving education, but we don't see it, right? Another way to improve education would be checking learning outcomes, wouldn't it? But of course, that's going to get a significant amount of time for changes and reform to translate into actual learning and progress. So we have made progress with children's learning, but again, that's intangible, isn't it? So when it comes to infrastructure, which is what many people want to see, and of course, very validly so, what every SUBEB has in any state is access to federal funds allocated to basic education and specifically targeted at infrastructure enhancement, improvement. So SUBEB, like any other state, receives a certain allocation of money that they match with the allocation already stipulated by the federal government. So Edo State does its bit. Before I became the SUBEB chairman, that was already ongoing. Under this administration, there were different projects that had already been executed. And also, in the time that I've been the chairman, in 2023 to be specific, we have carried out infrastructure enhancement across many schools. Speaking of this year alone, I didn't call my data, but of course I can make it available to you. But I mean, the one that right at my fingertips are the ones we've done this year. In this year alone, we intervened in 336 schools through 180 projects. Now, these projects could be construction of classrooms, and we can, of course, disaggregate what exactly we did, how many classrooms we built, classrooms that were renovated, furniture that are supplied, boreholes that are drilled, or some source of water in communities that boreholes wouldn't be ideal, and of course, toilets, provision of toilets. So that does happen. But of course, we have in Edo 1,330 basic schools. And if I told you that I intervened in 336 schools, that's just a small percentage of the whole bulk sum. And then of course, even when you go into these schools, you might drop a classroom block, right? Or renovate a classroom block, but then there are still other blocks that need renovation. So it will take time to get to every single school. It will take time, even when you get to a school, to do a whole school refurbishment or total overhaul of the school for it to then have that semblance of a remodeled school. But like we like to say, we have, and then of course there's the issue of equity and distribution when you choose and place this project, because it must go to all the communities, it must get to every LGA, and because the rate of dilapidation over time, because when the sector hasn't been given as much attention, they're just basically trying to catch up. And that's why in the times that I have been asked, we quickly realized that it was important not only to put funding to rehabilitating and building schools, but also to the maintenance of such schools. So first of all, ensure that the projects you do are at the best possible quality, so that they do not disintegrate quickly or dilapidate quickly.
Are these 336 schools, are they centered about Edo South, Benin area, or they are,
No, they are pretty much spread out.
Okay.
They are very much spread out.
So in every community, okay, not let me not say community, in every local government in Edo State, you can mention the list of schools.
Absolutely. So in every local government, they are definitely spread out. So a local government can have 13 projects, 20 projects, 30. It will depend. Local governments also define size and in pupil population and impact. So there's all that mix, all those factors that are considered as you determine where the projects are placed, but it's extremely important that the distribution.
Because I can imagine, as a politician myself, I would want to have schools in my community.
Yeah, we get that.
Yes, being rehabilitated. And so I will come to your office every day to tell you that with a primary school, we need a borehole, we need toilets, we need you to paint the buildings. And so I can imagine my colleagues will all do the same.
Yeah.
So how do you get to handle that kind of pressure from politicians?
So, we are very open to receiving input from politicians or communities or even the school leadership, like the SUBEB staff that work in the school, who then bring it to our attention that our school needs some form of innovation. And interestingly, right now, we're in the process of having ceaseless series of meetings, just trying to decide for the next intervention, what schools do we actually choose. So we have different buckets we identify, because Edo is known to run on data, and the Edo test actually allows us and use of technology to pull in all this data. So we actually know where our children are in terms of where our pupil populations are. We know where we have classroom inadequacy, so where classrooms are simply not enough based on the UBEC standard of 50 children to a class.
Oh, okay.
So we understand that. We also understand where maybe from reports of vandalism or encroachment, where schools that lack fencing, we'll understand schools that don't have water and things like that. Then of course we have all the lists that come from every interested party in whatever form, the people that write to His Excellency, the people that come to our office directly, and we throw all this in a mix and we try to come up with the best possible interventions that we can, trying to factor what is priority and what isn't. So we do make people understand that we cannot attend to every single request, but we do our best to identify the ones that are extremely important to do right now. What will also have been asked to do by His Excellency is come up with what he likes to call a 5-year intervention plan. So we know where all these schools are, and we know the current state of all of them. We understand that we can't intervene in all of them now, but there needs to be a plan of how we intervene in them over the long haul. So we can take this crop now and do this lot, and when the next allocation comes, you do this lot.
Okay, let me ask you. In the last couple weeks, maybe like a month ago or less, some videos went viral on social media, and these were videos of primary schools, that were in very interesting, states, and I could imagine watching those videos. I had friends send them to me, see what's going on in your states. I knew that this is not how every school in Edo State looks like. But then it is possible that there are some schools, especially in rural areas, that look like this. So when those videos went viral, how did you feel seeing that was, in quotes, your responsibility to handle? So how did you feel? Did you feel like, oh, looks like I have failed, or yes, we acknowledge that these things exist and there's a plan for us to get to these schools? It may not just have been, the turn of that school, but in the school just at the other side, in that community, we've done this. Well, how did you feel? I want to know.
Of course, I did have a number of...
Did you cry?
Well, maybe I didn't have the luxury of crying. I did have quite a number of sleepless nights, and getting to work in. I mean, one of the things that you understand that is an area that you have responsibilities. Many times I see with my job, I don't get the luxury to maybe whine or cry, or there's just
You gotta work.
exactly. So it was important to understand that first of all, that as I've said before, these schools were not out of our line of sight. We did know that they exist and that they were in bad states, and then we have the data for it. But sometimes you might not know when a mud building that exists caves in at the time that it does, right? And it wasn't as though it had been brought to our attention at that time. So we knew a mud building is there, it should go down. It was marked for deal with it in the next intervention. But at the time it goes down, and then it was also a call to us in terms of our responsibility to ensure that things are escalated when they need to be, that the communities must understand that they're able to engage with us and let us know what exactly is happening in their own specific community, especially when it leads to the endangering of lives.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we say that we'll wait for the next intervention, but sometimes you have to do makeshift arrangements, which is eventually what we did in that school when we demolished it. We moved the children, and it was somebody in the community that donated the space where they're currently using ahead of us building that school.
So are we currently trying to rebuild the school?
Yes, it's one of the schools that we've itemized. We've done a BOQ for it, and we plan to go and put up the structure there.
So do you have an idea when the kids are going to go back there?
The earliest they could possibly go back would be the end of the first quarter.
Okay.
In next year.
Okay.
And I would like to say that prior to that time, I have come across some videos, not that they were viral, just within my ecosystem, because there's a monitoring that goes on. And there was a school in Edo, in fact, your local government, Evareke Primary and Secondary School, and was really bad. But then you have to understand that basic education has been focused on primary schools. It's only in Edo now that His Excellency has added on the GSS schools, which means more responsibility for the state, more students to cater for, more teachers to hire, and more infrastructure to build. So what we did, understanding that this wasn't something we could quickly fix, we found a primary school that had excess classrooms. Maybe we found about 15 or so extra classrooms. So this is a big school, Olua Primary School, you might even know it. And then we were able to relocate the GSS school there. And when we went to monitor end of term exams, it was so beautiful to see children in a fenced environment, in safe classrooms, and giving them new furniture. They looked amazing. They even did a reel for us. But it was something that we had seen and fixed. The same thing happened to the children at Iviori, the special needs children. So we had located extra space in Uwa Primary School and another school close to Uwa. And we had relocated the 4 special education schools out of their property, which was constantly being vandalized and in a bad state, to these schools, to these new locations, temporarily. So sometimes you have those makeshift arrangements. We supply furniture there, and we fix whatever needed to be fixed. So you tend to do that sometimes. But what we like to let people know is that they are not out of our line of sight, but there are learnings from every experience.
Exactly.
And this is political season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so of course, we expect that Edo SUBEB, like you said, is one of His Excellency's legacy. So we expect that we have to be up and doing. Mm-hmm. We have actually gone round. We now know where every single mud building is. For the ones that are unusable, we've gotten them off and marked them out, not to be used for demolishing, and ensure that the children are no longer learning in them. But some mud buildings are still usable, yes, and you can stay in there. But we are trying to be on top of it and proactive. And of course, this, is additional information for us as we plan for our next intervention.
That's amazing. In all of this that you've been saying, I've been thinking, while we the people, want interventions in all our schools. There's an obvious fact that government cannot fund all of that intervention at the same time.
Yeah.
In developing and developed worlds, private individuals support government in the building of public utility.
Absolutely.
And so that takes me to this question about $75 million.
Okay.
Yes, you're being in the public, in the social media space, and there's this certain $75 million
That keeps
popping up. So I'm sure I want to know about it, and I'm sure some people want to know too. So tell us, is the money in your office or is it at home?
Actually, you're funny. So, $75 million, that special number. That $75 million represents the amount that the World Bank has offered to Edo State as a loan on the back of the Edo SUBEB program. So the World Bank has different ways it supports government. One of such ways is through a program called a P4R. P4R programs are payment for results. When they identify that the government is doing something that falls in line with any of its objectives, either in education or health or maybe infrastructure, all the areas that the World Bank has decided to focus on, if that state or country is able to approach the World Bank and say, this is what we're currently doing. And in this case, it was basic education. So His Excellency started out the Edo SUBEB program using the state funds. But understanding that providing basic education is expensive and we will not have the money to go on to do it for the long run. So he then was able to approach the World Bank and say, this is what we're already doing. Can you support us? So, and all that, there's all these technical conversations that I had about identifying what are the objectives of this program. How is it going to provide improved learning outcomes to children? How is it going to upskill the teacher? How is it going to upskill the teachers? How are you going to integrate the ownership of a basic management information system, which is data, into the framework of your education implementation? How are you going to tie this? Because at the time, the Excellency was also battling the illegal immigration problem. So how are you going to tie it to improving the employment opportunities for youth that stay in the state? So the Edo SUBEB program also has a linkage with Edo Jobs and the provision of digital skills for youth, for young people, and jobs, so that they have the opportunity to get better jobs. So if you educate young people and give them skills, they are most likely to have better life options. You know, that's the entire story.
So have we received all of the $75 million loan?
No. So the way the World Bank does it is that every project is broken down into years, and this one runs for 4 years. So, for every year, you have certain things you must achieve, and we call them DLIs, disbursement linked indicators. So you meet the requirements for your DLIs, and then you earn the reward. So you spend your money to do the work, and they say, oh, you earn the reward.
And so when they see that you've achieved what you were supposed to do, then you get another tranche of disbursement.
You get another tranche of disbursement. So for example, the program requires the children to have reading instructional materials, digital ones, right, but also physical books. So, for example, you see His Excellency had to spend his own money, that's state money, to supply books to the children. It's money that could be used for other things, really, if you consider that why should we waste money buying books, right? But you need to buy the books so the children can learn. Sure. Because the children, the teachers must refer to books, and there's a direct correlation between learning, teaching, and resource materials. So he has to spend whatever significant amount of money he spends to be able to earn his results. And who verifies and says that the state is doing what it should? There are independent verification agencies that the World Bank ensures are procured. So they could be any of the big four firms like the Pricewaterhouse or the KPMGs. So you have these people paid by the World Bank to come and independently verify what is happening in the state. So sometimes also you hear they call the World Bank to come and check what we're doing. But the thing is, I've had 2 World Bank meetings today because they are always checking. And for us to achieve the results, some part of it is capacity building.
Are they impressed though with what we've done?
Well, they are very impressed with the Edo State for different reasons. You know, the Edo SUBEB program is heralded mainly because the most critical success factor to any program is really the commitment of the person that makes the decisions, which in the state is the executive governor, to approve monies to buy the books, to pay the teachers, to fund the tablets that get missing or stolen or spoiled, and to back up the data. And His Excellency is committed to doing that. In fact, one of the easiest way to get him is to say, your children don't have this, your children cannot do this, and your program will suffer. And those are the things that guide the decisions that he makes. But he must have people like us that are able to sit on top of the program technically and ensure that the children are learning or that learning is happening. It doesn't go without chat. So they are impressed in that regard because they get they call up, they get responses from the states. Also, they work with quite a number of states. They don't necessarily get the same level of
confidence.
Yeah, confidence, reporting, answerable to accountability.
Yeah.
So that's why they like Edo. I understand that there was a meeting just today, the governor's forum in Abuja, and somebody texted me. Essentially, that person is being a critic of this government. When texted me to say, your Edo Best was applauded. And we weren't there, I didn't even really know about the meetings, and I'm surprised we were there. As a program that is working, not that is perfect, but that is working.
Yes.
One of the things the World Bank also does is that it likes to like once he took us to Brazil to go and see a reform similar to ours in a country similar to ours, highly populated, a lot of people living in low economic brackets, but a country that has been able to sustain a basic education program successfully by significantly improving learning outcomes, but over a period of 30 years. So it made you
continued improvement,
irrespective of changes in administrations and things like that. And it made us realize that our reform is literally a baby.
Yes. So it's going to take us time.
It's going to take time
to make tremendous progress.
Absolutely.
That is physical. That
is easy to see.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was going to ask you: is the Edo State government planning on recruiting teachers soon? I know that there are Edo Star teachers, and I don't know how much they earn, and I don't know if they're going to be incorporated into is it civil service now?
Yes.
So is there a plan to hire new teachers?
Yes, there is a plan. So, I mean, it goes without saying that there are teacher gaps in Edo State. There are teacher gaps in every state in Nigeria. There are teacher gaps everywhere in the world.
Yes.
Right? And of course, teachers are many. You understand? They just come like in numbers. So they are an expensive resource component. And so for any government to do a mass recruitment of teachers, you have to ensure that you make the right budgetary provisions and things like that. One of the things that is critical to sustaining Edo Best is to ensure that you have enough teachers in the classroom. So it's at the forefront of the conversations we've been having with His Excellency over the last year. And finally, we've come to a point where His Excellency has approved the recruitment of teachers in line with the gaps that exist. Currently, we have 3,000 Edo Star teachers to augment the number of government teachers that are in the state. We say that we have trained 16,500 teachers, but there have been a lot of attrition because of the years they were employed. They all live in batches like that, so there's been a lot of attrition. So you train them, we've lost quite a number of them. But the Edo Star program takes people who are willing to live and work in communities where there are identified gaps. And it was a call to the sons and daughters of different places and say, encourage your sons and daughters to apply. And we will post them to your community so they can stay there and teach there. So that's how we have the Edo Star teachers.
Has it been effective though?
Well, definitely
Yeah,
it
because
has.
I know that people would like to work in the Benin metropolis. So if you ask someone to go to Usain, for example, she's going to be considering, are there going to be any studios? I mean, there's no farm in Usain. So how are teachers posted to those rural communities? How do they function? What's the success story, if at all?
Yeah. So you are right. What we found is that some particular local governments suffer more than the rest. Of course, it goes without saying that the Benin ones are the ones that everybody wants to stay in. But you do have, North does quite well. The North have people that are willing to stay there. The Central, not so much. They start, then they want to leave after a while. And also the South LGs that are not necessarily in Benin, they suffer a lot, maybe because they are so close to Benin, so it's easy to just escape to Benin. So it's been very effective because at least it has covered 3,000 blacks. So that means something. However, what you find is that some people started out in these LGs are not so attractive for social life and things like that. And after a while, they want to leave. And they don't want to resign, though. They just want to be transferred to Benin.
Yes.
Yes, and the secretary has said, no, you stay where you want, but that is a current reality.
Is there an incentive for people to stay in rural areas?
So those are the conversations that we are having even now. And it's even a memo that has been sent to His Excellency to say, for certain local government that we've identified, we want to give an incentive for people to want to live there. We know it goes beyond money though. So we are saying to the local government chairman, when we send teachers to your local government, encourage them to stay, at least for the week. By giving them, maybe you might have a house in your village, you don't go to Urumi, unless there's a burial or something, you might have a BQ that would encourage someone to stay there. So we are saying, we send you teachers, you know that no one wants to stay in your communities, encourage, pet them, you understand, so that your children can learn, if they can at least stay for the week. So those are conversations that have to be had. We like to say in basic education is our slogan that education for all is the responsibility of all. Government
Education for all
is the responsibility of all.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I perceive that there's a gap, a gender gap in the education system in developing countries. Are girls encouraged to go to school and stay in school? Is there a plan to have more girls stay in school? I honestly believe that the future is female. I think women are more intelligent than men.
Okay.
Yes, that's
I agree.
That's a view I've heard for so long, and nobody has been bold enough to disagree with me. So I want to see more girls go to school and stay in school, because the more you educate a girl, the more you prosper the society. The more she can contribute more to the GDP, the less number of children she's likely to have.
Absolutely.
And the more prosperous the community is. Yeah. So I'm particular about girl child education. I wish I had a daughter, but I don't. So is there something around encouraging girls to remain in school?
So putting things in perspective, generally worldwide in Edo, and even with help from the international development agencies, there's a need to focus more on educating girl child. Very much in line with the sentiments that you raised for all those very valid economic and social reasons. In Edo, we do not have a problem with training our girls. Our girls go to school. And Edo Best has achieved gender parity. So across all our schools, we have 51% boys and 49% girls. Hopefully, maybe it has tilted by now. I don't know. But
I'm hoping so.
That's like, so we have achieved gender parity. Enough girls go to school here, right? But there's of course that conscious effort of ensuring, making that awareness and sensitization to let people know, especially when girls are helping people in homes, they need to go to school as well. So that sensitization is always necessary and is always ongoing. But in Edo, we don't have that peculiar problem as you would in certain parts of the country that girls should go more. However, we know that we are a vulnerable gender, right? So they always need to So it's probably more of enriching what girls do, ensuring that girls are in tech, girls are getting hands-on,
Oh yeah.
girls can be first, girls can dance as well, girls can do anything that a boy can do. Educating
And more.
and more.
Yeah, more.
Yes.
I think, forgive me for my bias, I think women are more productive. I think women are more dedicated
Committed, yes.
to causes they
His
do.
Excellency thinks exactly that.
Yes, and I think that we should have more women in tech, more women in politics, more women in government, because societies that have progressed have encouraged more women in government,
Yeah.
have encouraged more women to participate in the economy of the nation.
Yeah.
The US and China is an example. Women are contributing almost the same rate as men to the GDP, and that's why they're where we are.
Yeah.
Societies that leave women at the bottom of the totem pole never progress. So I'm happy that there's this conscious effort and commitment to seeing that girls go to school and stay in school.
Yes.
Yes.
And that what we offer them in school is rich.
Yes.
And there's also that psych, even educating the boys to let them know how girls are just as important. Girls should be treated
with respect.
With respect, and just like significant pairs and others. So essentially, that conversation definitely is ongoing. And
please, if at any point you need someone to speak to boys or someone to speak to people to encourage them to invest in girl child education, I should be number one on your list. I have a whole lot to say.
We have a volunteer.
Oh yes, you do. Your job is a very tasking one. There's a whole lot of attention on what you do.
Yeah.
Have you at any point wanted to resign your job to say, you know what, I'm not really ready for all this craziness that's going on. Maybe I should just let you guys go. Have you been there at any point?
Oh, definitely. I've worked in public service now for about 3 years. So it's definitely easier now. But I came from the private sector, and I tell my private sector family members and friends that I don't think you can survive here, because it's a whole different world and a whole different game. But I guess there are times where I do think that it's probably saner to go away. And I feel like I have options. I'm not waiting to stay my entire time here and retire and get a pension. So what I think is really, for me, what keeps me going is really about the impact of what we are doing, right? Especially when you talk of all these stories that I tell, like the Brazils, and maybe also His Excellency has this way of rubbing off on people. When he's a visionary, when he's very visionary, and when he shares that vision with you, you just pick it up and run with it. So maybe those are the things that make me stay grounded and remind me of the reason why I'm here, and ensure that I haven't run away. Because somebody must come and do it, right?
Yes.
And we see ourselves as change agents. I feel that His Excellency brought me in, and the mandate he gave me was really a transformation one, as is happening in many areas of government, not just in education, in the civil service, and even with the ways the PSs and the heads of all these MDAs see the work that they do, understand the importance of providing public service that is less selfish and more giving to the people. So those are the things that give us, and so when we get confused, we just look to His Excellency and you just say, we understand why we are here.
Oh, that's impressive. I'm so sure that you've not asked for water all along. I thought my questions were tough questions, put on the hot seat, but you've done a very good job. I think I'll be rounding up now with one last question.
All right.
In the next few months, we'll be talking about a change in government.
Absolutely.
How are we, or what's our plan to sustain what we have achieved in the last couple of years as regards to Edo Best? What's the plan to sustain it? So even if a government that comes that doesn't like Edo Best, or that hates education, God forbid, and says, okay, I want to destroy everything, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But what's our sustainability plan?
Well, there's the first thing of hoping that people see the good. Like I'm the first to say that we're not, it's definitely not a perfect program, it's a journey. I like to call it the journey of a reform. But I'm hoping that people can see that what if we did nothing, right? What if there was no Edo Best? Where would we be today, right? What if His Excellency didn't take that bold step to find extra funding to do all, because the funding that will go to basic education will be what UBEC sends, and the little trickles that probably will be targeted towards funding salaries to the local governments, or trying to do trickles of stuff. So what if we just didn't do Edo Best? Where would we be? So hopefully you see the progress and the value that has been added by even starting the program at all. So let's hope that does something. But other than that, on the technical side, one thing that has been at the forefront, at least in the time that I've been here, chairman, was taking off from where my predecessor had left off, because it's a big deal to initiate a reform and to ensure that it runs for 3 years. You don't give up after 1 year.
So reforms take time.
They take time. So getting to the point where it got to 3 years, and then that's when the baton was handed over, with the consciousness of transitioning and sustainability. Because what's very clear is that the government understands that it lacks competencies and capabilities in certain areas. So you needed a technical partner. And the technical partners ran it fully for the first 3 years. And now, in coming into a 2.0 contract, you say you need to handhold us. We need to have staff that mirror what the technical partner is doing. The people that are on the field doing the job, all 250 of them are civil servants, and so are not going anywhere and will grow in the civil service. And the civil servants that are involved in the management of education at the local government level and at the headquarters level and the SUBEB level are mirroring what the technical partners are doing, sitting in the room, having the conversations with technical partners and challenging what they are doing. So all that is happening on the background. One of the benefits of the Edo Best program also is the transformation of that agency that manages basic education, which is SUBEB. So it's a digital program. So SUBEB, to the large extent, has been, the processes have been streamlined. There's a lot of structure in the way SUBEB works. There's a lot of digitalization of our processes. So all that is targeted towards sustainability and transition, ensuring that program continuity. So there's the back of that. There's all of that. There's also the very conscious need that we can have all the beautiful conversations. Sustainability cannot be spoken about without funding, because funding is a critical part of sustaining the Edo Best program. So as we are still in bed with development agencies such as World Bank, we're a very beautiful bride, I like to say, to international development agencies, because they are looking for a government that will do what it says it will do. So they would like to come here. We are an accelerator state by virtue of even starting the Edo Best program, which is a program that focuses on strengthening foundational learning and literacy. So we are getting additional support. Some of them, not all of it is monetary, some of it is in capacity building. So that's also targeted towards sustaining Edo Best. Then there's a critical conversation with private organizations and private individuals who are saying, we like what Edo is doing, we like what His Excellency has done, we believe in it, but can we really give our money to government? Will government really do what it says it will do? Won't it go into somebody's pocket? So increasingly, we are having to articulate what it would mean to engage with the private sector in partnering for the management of our schools to augment what government must do, but is unable to do, alone. So those conversations are being had with private organizations, NGOs, and even the concept of what it will take to set up a trust fund. So you're sure that there's some accountability and stewardship, so that the Edo Best program can be supported. So all those conversations are ongoing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Madam SUBEB. You are a very intelligent human being.
Okay.
I honestly think so. And I mean, you could go on talking on and on because there's a whole lot you have to say. And I wish we could continue this. And I'm hoping that we do this again as there's a whole lot more for you to talk about as it comes. Please, we're going to invite you again to tell us about it. And I've found a very exciting, partner with you starting this Facebook Live session. And I'm sure that all the questions and worries people had about the $75 million has been answered. And if there's a whole lot more you need, maybe watch the video again or send her a message or go to her office. She's a public servant.
I am.
It is her job to respond to you.
Absolutely.
So if you have questions to ask, she's not afraid of you. So you shouldn't be afraid of her too. Ask her the questions you need to ask, and I'm sure she'll give you the answers you need. Thank you so much for coming again, and thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.